Before we get started, I think really it's incumbent upon me to kind of set the stage for where we are at regarding homelessness in San Antonio. This is a vexing issue that every major city in the country is encountering. In fact, I was at an International Downtown Association convention in Chicago, and it was standing room only at every breakout session that we have associated with homelessness. So it's good to know, obviously, that we're in good company associated with it, but it's also sad, very sad at the same time, because I will tell you that we did not create this problem. We inherited this problem. And by and large, due to a myriad of factors. Number one being, this country has just not done an effective job acknowledging or recognizing the mental health crisis that we have in this country today. Right? I think we can all agree on that, right? And as a result, the country has not appropriated resources or monies associated with the problem. So guess what? It falls upon the shoulders of urban cities to tackle this problem. Number two, COVID. It decimated downtowns, moved people out, and so the homeless got very comfortable in the space that they were in regarding downtown. And so as a result, we are still dealing with that today because everybody, whether we have a home, or we have an apartment, or we have a condominium, we all just want our space at the end of the day, right? A space to call ours. And so during COVID, that's what happened with the homeless, is they called downtown or a sidewalk in downtown their home. So it's very difficult, and people ask me all the time, I don't understand, why can't Centro just go and pick up these people and take them into a shelter? That would be kidnapping, right? They have to voluntarily want to go. So my point being, it's not that easy. So we've talked about the mental health crisis, we've talked about COVID, and then number three, we talk about the prevalence and the proliferation of substance abuse and what's happening. Synthetic marijuana. What's happening with the opioid crisis, methamphetamines, crack cocaine, all of it. And many of our homeless who are on the street suffer from both. They suffer from not just mental health, but also they're deadening the pain associated with mental health, associated with substance abuse. So it's a vexing issue that we dig into every single day. But compounding the things that I've just talked about is the fact that we have a critical shortage of mental health beds or psych beds in this city and in this county. So imagine if we had somewhere where we could get folks who are in dire need of help, by the way, get them stabilized on medications, get them wraparound services, a short stay, and we're not talking something that's long-term, but get them stabilized so they can become productive citizens of society. And not many people know this. With the shuttering of the Nix Hospital in downtown, we lost 120 mental health beds. With the closure of Southwest Vista, which used to be Southwest General Hospital, which had become really the mental health facility in downtown, that was another 100 beds or so. And when it shuttered, we lost that too. So, pragmatically speaking, we have zero, really, mental health beds to work with in this county, and that's problematic. And so I'm going to preach a little bit here from the podium because I think this is important. All of you need to be advocating for elected officials at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level, city and county, to make sure that we are appropriating monies associated with mental health beds, because it would contribute substantially to the problem that we have with homelessness and mental health. And so as we look at the landscape and what we are trying to accomplish here, and it's long-term regarding mental health beds. By the way, Houston and Harris County, they have a 300-bed facility. So it's not just incumbent upon our elected officials, it's incumbent upon our private hospital systems, and yes, it's majorly incumbent upon our public health system, our public hospital system. So there needs to be a deep dive into this issue, and where is the money going to be appropriated to make sure that we have the capacity for mental health beds in this city and in this county. I am incredibly privileged to work with the homeless response system in San Antonio and in Bexar County. So if I could just let the homeless response system, all of the representatives we have here today, including our ambassador for Central San Antonio, please stand up and recognize. This is an incredibly robust system, and we are on calls every other week as we are digging into gaps and challenges and opportunities associated with homelessness. And we are innovating and ideating every single day associated with this space. By the way, I have Centro ambassadors, many of whom you will see on a video here very shortly, who come from lived experience and have been homeless, right? And now they're conducting outreach associated with the homeless in San Antonio. So, number one, I think collectively what we have decided as a group in the homeless response system, this is not a magic bullet or one magic bullet that's going to solve homelessness in San Antonio and Bexar County. It is a very complex problem, it is a very vexing issue, and it requires multiple solutions associated with that. So, you all should be very proud of the fact that we have solutions associated with permanent supportive housing, right? And Haven for Hope and what they do on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, Kim Jeffries. Obviously, we've talked about that, but it's also about low barrier shelters. We have moved into that space too. It is also about day shelters and getting people off the street and getting them fed. It is also about Town Twin Village and the Tiny Homes Project that is on the Near East side of San Antonio. Mark Wittig, are you here this morning? Sorry if he's not, but if you have all not been out to Town Twin Village, it's an amazing place, right? We need to scale that opportunity. It's for people that are 50 years and older to be able to access a tiny home, give them respect, give them dignity, and we've created a community that supports each other in that space, which is important. And then lastly, what I will tell you, and many people did not even know this, and it comes through conversations that we have daily and weekly. That is, we had a gap, and Lori Houston and I identified it associated with skilled nursing facilities because people were dying on the street that were in need of skilled nursing. Hospital systems can't accommodate them. Sometimes they would go to Haven for Hope, and they don't have the capacity to be able to do that, and so Lori and I said, hey, we're going to work together, we're going to find money associated with that. So we went to the First Aid Foundation and Kevin Denon and said, can you please understand kind of the need associated with this, and can you appropriate monies? And so guess what? We have a $500,000 grant from the First Aid Foundation going into identifying 3 skilled nursing facilities that people are being moved off the street and into skilled nursing, because if they did not have that opportunity or that option, they would be dying on the street. So imagine what an outreach worker has to do every single day when they're checking on someone, and then they come back one morning and they find out they passed. And by the way, I had an ambassador who encountered a person on Soledad Street just last week who had passed. It's heartbreaking what happens, right? So the ability with this $500,000 grant to get IDs recovered, get Medicaid associated with that ID recovery, get reimbursement associated with that, and then redeploy that money out onto the street. And I think the most important thing is we are the only city in the country that's doing that correct. So round of applause for accomplishing and ideating and innovating regarding moving people off the street every single day. So despite what we're doing, and I'm going to wrap this up, there is more that needs to be done regarding the stigma associated with mental health and with homelessness. People call them dirty, people call them foul, people call them hopeless, people call them unmotivated. But at the end of the day, these folks are humans, and it is our job to help them.
I don't know if you ever could solve the homeless population. I really don't think you can, because some people, they actually like living on the street.
So, who is the unsheltered population?
think a lot of people pass these individuals by and don't realize that there goes me, you know?
It's easy to pass a judgment on a person just on the image. You might look at me and you be like, man, this person's about to rob me, when I just want the best for you now.
a lot of people see them as an obstacle, a nuisance, a mess, hopeless, helpless, and unworthy.
We're not supposed to judge nobody. It could happen to anybody. You could be the richest person in the world and lose everything.
All right, so this is our courtyard where everybody can come and hang out, smoke cigarettes, and just kind of have their lunch out here and get away from all the chaos that's inside. This door, we do showers at this door right here on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And then over here is our day room on this side. And this here's our day room. This is where all the homeless people can come and just chill out and get out of the heat, get some lunch. We serve lunch right there from 12 to 1.
Okay, so we're gonna actually go right here. These ribbons all represent somebody who passed away from an overdose. And I believe this was 2 years ago that we did this one. But if you look close, they have names on them.
So this is our harm reduction right here. So this is my buddy Cody. He's actually a recovery coach here and works up here at harm reduction.
Harm reduction is the idea that meet people where they're at. Not everybody's necessarily ready to stop using. Let's keep people alive and give them the tools to be safer with their use. Sometimes somebody walks in and says, hey, I'm ready to go to detox. And we start making the moves to get them into detox and treatment.
Homelessness is not gonna go away overnight or even working with somebody for a year. Like, it's not a one and done thing. This is a lifetime commitment and loving people through their pain. So who the unsheltered population are. I actually had a conversation not too long ago with somebody, and he kind of broke down and he was like, you know, Brittany, I feel like the other. And he goes, when I sit downtown, I feel like a shadow. People just walk by me, they don't even know that I'm there. They don't make eye contact with me, they don't say hello, good morning. So they feel like the outcast.
Removing that stigma allows people to open their eyes and say, hey, you know what, this is a human being sitting here on the corner of the street that I'm looking at. They need help. Punishment isn't a way to help somebody, you know? At least not in this form, right?
The stigma of homelessness really bothers me. I'm the face of homelessness.
Unfortunately, we tend to ignore the homeless like they don't exist.
Just because you live in a different lifestyle, man, you gotta see just life in general, where they're all human beings too out there, man.
I looked at the homeless community as beneath me. I was not like them. But I was just like them. I just wasn't under the bridge yet. And I thought I knew everything. But when I found myself on the streets, I knew nothing. And then, you know, about a year into it, I became what I call homeless comfortable. I didn't have to answer to anybody. I didn't have to be accountable for anything. If there's any way in the world a female can give herself away, I did it. I had to watch a lot more trauma in the streets than I ever did. If you had told me like 3 years ago this is where I would be sitting at, I'd have said you're crazy.
It is what it is. I mean, like I say, I don't think you'll ever solve the homeless population, but it can get better. And I think San Antonio does a great job.
To the stage, Lori Houston.
I gotta say, Trish, I hadn't seen that video, and it was amazing. So thank you so much. It really touched me, and I hope it touched you all. Before I start, I do want to just remind everyone why we're here. We're here to educate people on the impact of homelessness and what we can do and what we are doing. And I also want to stress that we would not be able to do 10% of what we have done as the leadership of homeless response without our outreach team members and our quality of life ambassadors. And if you are an outreach team member or a quality of life ambassador, can I ask you to stand up? These are the individuals that are probably the only smile that some of our homeless see. And I also want to point out someone, Brittany Ackerson, you are my hero. And if you don't know Brittany's story, you need to get Brittany's story. The first time I ever met her, she said her story and I was crying. Brittany got sober on the streets, which is impossible. She went on to help our most vulnerable, and it's just amazing. And it's her story and her strength and her compassion that makes her so amazing, and I've learned a lot from you, so thank you. Okay, before I start, I do want to mention two things. I need to thank my two best friends in this room. Starting with the smallest, it is Millie Hope Houston. And ending with the tallest, it is my man Daryl Berg. I love you both so very much, and they helped me with my speech today, and Millie and I were in the living room at 11 o'clock working on it last night. If you need someone to judge you, bring this lady. She's awesome. So, thank you for joining us today, and I already thanked Trish, but I want to thank Trish for bringing this event together. And we're going to be talking about humanizing homelessness. And over the next 12 minutes, thank God, next 12 minutes, I'm going to share my story and my journey to sobriety. And I hope that you leave with a better understanding of what is needed to really even start your journey to sobriety and what we mean when we talk about humanizing homelessness. And I want to share three things, and you're going to hear these three things throughout my speech. One, I am a recovering alcoholic, 14 years. Two, getting sober is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And three, next to my daughter Millie, my sobriety is my greatest achievement. Now, I'm a senior executive with the 7th largest city in the United States, and I'm the executive responsible for homelessness services as well as affordable housing. I have a front row seat to the homeless crisis facing our nation. And as a recovering alcoholic, I know the pain, and I know the desperation inflicted by this disease. More importantly, I understand the magnitude of my accomplishment. And because of my lived experience, and because of my role at the city, I lead with compassion, I lead with perspective, and I lead with humility. However, unless I'm honest about my truth, and I'm honest with the community I serve, I don't think I could live with integrity. And that was bothering me so much. And that is why I've decided to share my story. Now, my journey to addiction was non-traditional. I don't have a sad story. My childhood and adult years were mostly positive and unmarked by trauma that you would expect to see in someone who has an addiction. I had a stable family, did great in college, was married at 22 and got a great job in the city of San Antonio at 23. As my income increased, so did my partying, and by the time I was 26, my weekday routine was to start drinking after work, and I would continue until 10 p.m. when I would pass out, and then I would do it all over again. And my weekends were the same, but I would start much earlier and with a Bloody Mary. At one point, I was consuming 4 bottles of champagne at night. Every morning would start with a promise to myself that, I'm gonna not drink this week. I'm gonna just start drinking Thursday through Sunday. And I would make it one day, I would make it one day. And then I would start drinking again. And that was all I could achieve, just one day. Now, I worked a full-time job, and I worked really hard, and I was well respected, and I didn't drink on the job. And by the age of 31, I had everything a young professional could ask for, but I had this darker side. And even though I knew I had a drinking problem, I felt I just needed to cut back. I would drink after work, drink at dinner, have a nightcap or 5, pass out, and start again the next day. And it was my own personal Groundhog Day. Now, on one day, after day drinking all day, it was on a Sunday, I blacked out at 4 p.m. And I woke up at 11 p.m. that night. And I was so sick of failing myself over and over. And I know that feeling right now, and it scares me. I had this heaviness that was full of shame, desperation. I was so lonely, even though I was so loved. And I was fearful. I felt hopeless, and it was suffocating. And I stayed up all night, and I had to make a change. And I prayed, and I cried, and I just remember I couldn't wait until the sun come up, because I knew that I could reset my life, and I was going to start my life all over again. So when the sun came up, I called my family and my close friends, and I declared that I was an alcoholic. And then a friend who I met at work brought me to AA. He brought me to like 100 meetings. And another one found me a counselor. And I called my doctor, and I told her, hey, I know I've told you I only drink about 3 to 4 drinks a week. I'm an alcoholic, and I drink 50 to 60 drinks a week. And she said, oh, well, let's do some blood work. So we did blood work, and I was hoping that something would come back and say I was having liver failure. So I had a reason to say I had to stop drinking. But she came back and said, you were incredibly healthy. And I was like, shit. Because to me, a medical excuse was something tangible. It required less work on my part. And wanting to quit drinking because you want your life back, it requires you to trust a higher power. It requires a tremendous amount of self-love and a willingness to forgive both yourself and others. This requires a lot of work. Now, I hope you all know that I have never been one to shy away from hard work. And so I was determined to not let my alcoholism defeat me. And I went to AA. I got my 30-day chip. I got my 90-day, my 6-month, my 9-month, and my 1 year. And that was in 2011, and I have all those chips in a little box in my room. So it is hard. I have relapsed twice, just quickly. And it was because alcoholism is a disease. And it told me, you can drink, you're fine. It's fine, you've learned your lesson. And within like 3 days, I was back to 4 bottles of champagne. But this disease lies to you. It tells you you can do things, or it tells you you can't do things without it. And so I was determined that I would win, and I did win. Today when I drink, what I do is I think about that suffocating despair from that lonely night. And it really is familiar talking about it. It does scare me. And I think about the people who love me, and I think about the people that need me. And I take a deep breath, I say a prayer, and I move on. The disease will still try to convince me that it's okay, but I know it's a lie, and I ignore it. And most of you in this room know Millie. She's probably the most famous person next to the mayor in this room. And I named her Millie Hope. And I named her Millie because my grandmother, and I named her Hope because my then husband's grandmother was also named Hope. But hope to me has a totally different reason. Hope's meaning to me is it's the opposite of everything I felt that night. And I don't want Millie to ever feel hopeless. I don't want anyone to feel hopeless. And Millie is my hope. She's an amazing reminder to me that I'm strong and I'm not alone and I'm loved. And I love you so much, baby girl. But here's the thing. I want you all to know that I'm acutely aware that I had the upper hand when I started my journey to sobriety. This awareness nurtured my desire to help those less positioned to seek and find sobriety, especially our homeless. Fortunately, my job provides me this opportunity to assist our homeless if they desire to get sober and they want help. So when I think about my personal struggle compared to our homeless who are fighting the same disease, I realize how truly blessed I am. Even on the toughest days, I knew society was not looking down on me like they do our homeless. I wasn't perceived as a visible nuisance, and the very look of me did not evoke feelings of disgust and frustration. I wasn't the example in the car when the parent says, if you don't go to college, you'll end up like this person. I had my basic needs met. I had a great house. I was both physically and emotionally secure. I had clothing, shelter, safety, and food. And I had access to services. I have a great employer. And I want to share this. The city of San Antonio, they provide amazing benefits. They provide navigation services because when I was trying to get help, I didn't know where to go. And what the city did was they helped me find that help. The insurance covered that help. And then I also had 3 amazing bosses that helped me. So poor Cheryl Scully, you knew I was an alcoholic. And when I told her I was an alcoholic, she was like, I'm so proud of you. What else can we do to help you? And Carlos Contreras, he's there. He is hands down the best boss I've ever had. Cheryl, thank you for making Carlos my boss. He was amazing. And when I was going through pregnancy, when I was going through hard times, he would just check on me. You doing okay? You need anything? I'm proud of you. It was just amazing. And then Eric Walsh was just the coolest guy you'll ever meet. Did the same thing. And in fact, this year he put me on a committee to help create a mental wellness plan for our employees. Because he knew that my perspective and my experience would add value. So I had a great employer. And then I had family and friends that I trusted and who loved me. They believed in me, they held me accountable, and even when I failed, I knew that I had someone to love me, and they were not disappointed in me. So my faith and desire to change, I want to make sure everybody knows this, my faith and my desire to change, that was key to my sobriety, absolutely. But I would not have made it as far if any of those items that I just mentioned were different. Yet society expects our homeless to do the impossible in the absence of compassion, physical and emotional security, resources, and love. So what do they need? They need compassion. There is a lack of understanding about both the power of addiction and the reasons behind homelessness. And we can't allow the uninformed to drive the homeless narrative. Too often I hear the saying, that person needs to just quit drinking and get a job. Seriously? If it were only that easy. A lot of our homeless do have jobs. It's keeping the job while addicted that's the problem. And they don't have employers like I do at the city. And they fail. I find it interesting interesting that we have this Hunter Biden trial that concluded, and the narrative around addiction this week, it's been so confusing. Even our media doesn't understand what addiction is. And that's what people are, they're learning about addiction through our media. We've got to do a better job of controlling that. The other thing they need is they need housing. We can't expect our shelter to get sober when they're living on the streets. You know what they're doing? They're trying to stay alive, guys. They're exhausted. They're protecting their own belongings. They can't focus on getting sober on the street. They're scared. We need to focus on getting them in safe places to live, whether that's temporary or permanent housing, so we can help them start their journey. They need access to services and case management. No one can do this alone. And for me, finding help was scary, but unfortunately, my employer helped me do this. And I was able to find the services I needed. I also had friends that physically took me to meetings and helped me along. And my family and friends were not going to let me fail. They were my case managers. And finally, they need love. The trauma and pain experienced by many of these individuals is tremendous. If you listen to just 5% of their story, you will be bawling. Some have been abandoned and betrayed by family and friends. Some others have never had a healthy relationship in their life. So how do we expect them to make these life-changing decisions and commitment to overcome their addiction if no one believes in them and then no one shows them compassion? Now, I believe that I am sober today because I am blessed with so much unconditional love in my life. And I believe our homeless deserve the same unconditional love. This is my story, and this is my truth. And as an addict, I will tell you, overcoming their addiction is the single most difficult thing they've ever done. And my recovery was so hard. But I want to stress that my faith and my desire to change were a huge part of my sobriety. And I believe my journey was somewhat less challenging because with each step I took, I felt safe. I had access to services, and I was loved. And I can't expect our homeless to free themselves of addiction without these same conditions. And Councilman Rocha and Mayor, I want you to know that, I do lead with compassion and humility because of my story. And I get to control policy, and when I make a recommendation to you, it's because I live this. It's not because I read a book or I've talked to someone. I know what people need. So I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to lead because I feel like that I have the responsibility to do this. I have this position, I have this perception, and perspective, and I think it's really important that I continue to do this. And I want to share that first, we need the compassion, and these outreach team members and our quality of life ambassadors, this is the only compassion that some of our homeless individuals receive on the street. And so today, you'll have a flyer on your table, and there's a QR code where you can donate, but the proceeds from today are going to go help our outreach members and our quality of life ambassadors with more trainings. Hey, they need counseling services too. What they experience is horrible. But what I want you all to take away is that we need to show compassion when we see our homeless. It's okay. Please look them in the eye and smile. Make eye contact. We can't forget that they are humans. And we can't forget we're Compassionate City, San Antonio. And we are a role model. And so I know we can do this. I am so happy that I have so many friends and family in this room. I couldn't have done this without the support of you all. And every one of you here means so much to me. And some of you have called me out when I relapse. And some of you just call and check on me. And I love you for that. So thank you so much for allowing me to share my story. And I promise I'll continue to make everyone proud as we all make an impact in homelessness. Thank you.
We're all very proud of working with Lori Houston because of the work that she does. I think we all just got even more proud of working with Lori for the person that she is. Let's give another round of applause. So there is a lot to be thankful for in our community as we've accomplished much over the last year within our housing ecosystem and have made some significant strides within our homeless response system. This is largely due to the system-wide improvements we've made in coordinating the allocation of resources and the provision of services. We do all of this work together because we are coordinated. This includes a $15 million in funding for a 200-bed low-barrier shelter, $40 million in city, county, and federal funding to create 300 permanent supportive housing units with on-site services across the city. These investments are on the top of continued city funding for street outreach workers to be out in the community and foster relationships within our most vulnerable residents to foster and better address their needs. I want to stress that we have achieved all of this again together with the support of the public. And finally, after so many hours of work and coordination of services, we have providers all across this community, from the city to the county to nonprofits to private sector providers that are working in the same direction and alignment. And I also want you to know that we have a chief housing officer at the city. And so if I could ask Mark Carmona to please stand, our city's first ever chief housing officer. He is the maestro of our policy orchestra. Addressing homelessness is a tall task, but I am confident that as long as we work together, we can continue providing quality services and housing for people most in need. And so this is precisely the subject of today's panel. And so I'd like to introduce our panelists and ask them to come to the stage. Of course, you met Trish DeBerry, President and CEO of Central San Antonio. Let me ask Katie Wilson also to come forward from Close to Home. Erica Borrego from Core Zone Ministries. We have Don White-Fostick from CAM. Kim Jeffries from Haven for Hope. And of course, Deputy Chief Benavides from the San Antonio Police Department. I think I got everybody. Now, they gave us 25 minutes for our 7 panelists with a huge subject to discuss. Oh, I missed Nikisha. That's right. Lucky number 7. So I'm going to prompt each one of them with kind of a broad question, and you'll get the picture of how our homeless response system works together as they fill it in. So I'll start at the end there with Trish, since you are introducing us. Trish, Centra's primary role within the homeless response system in our public improvement district is really clean and safe operation and the approximate 130 ambassadors who are part of that 24/7 operation. But you all have had to pivot in the homeless response outreach space over the last few years. So what is Centro's chief response role and how has it impacted downtown?
So it's rather like I talked about before. Like, we didn't necessarily want to be in this space, but because of what has happened associated with society, we are now in this space. So when people look at our ambassadors on the street, they see the clean and safe operation, the folks that are watering the plants, they're power washing the sidewalks, all those things. A distinguishing difference is the quality of life ambassadors that we have. They're in blue shirts, and so many of them are here today. Charlie, I see you here. Brian, who we saw on the video. Thank you, Nicole, by the way, for being so vulnerable associated with your testimony in the video. But they are on bikes and they are moving about the space in the pit, and they are touching all the time. And I mean physically touching, but also trying to motivate, saying, hey, maybe today is the day that you need to get into a shelter or a resource, or you need to be able to get help. So we had 10 of those. This year we doubled, so we have 20 quality of life ambassadors now that are doing multiple touches on the street regarding homeless individuals, trying to get them help. And we work very closely. Chief Benavides is here today. I'm at the Bike Patrol office every month. We are navigating that space. We are identifying hotspots and how we continue to work together. And the beauty associated with the relationship that we have with Bike Patrol is Bike Patrol really sees our quality of life ambassadors as the eyes and ears on the street and an extension, really, of their services and what we do in downtown. So we are proud, obviously, to be able to do the work, but we are even prouder, obviously, to be able to work with these amazing individuals who are on the stage, because Centro is a minor cog in the wheel. These folks, selfless, dedicated, passionate, working it every single day.
Thank you very much, Trish. Now over to Katie Wilson. Katie, you are the head of our lead agency for San Antonio and Bexar County's Continuum of Care, also formerly known as the San Antonio Regional Alliance for the Homeless. Now it's called Close to Home, and it's responsible for what we know as our census every year, the point-in-time count of our homeless community. Can you give us an update on the recently released point-in-time count? Give us your sense of the highlights, what we can take away from the report.
Yes, so if you've had a chance to see the results of this year's point-in-time count, although there was a slight increase overall, there was a lot of encouraging news. And when you compare San Antonio and Bexar County to other cities across the nation, we have far more individuals who are in shelter than unsheltered, which is not common in other communities that haven't made that same investment. Now, with that said, we're very focused here today on who you see that's unsheltered, but we are experiencing a crisis for our families that are at risk of eviction now, are still struggling from the pandemic. Rents are increasing, and that also creates a strain on these same partners that are working to address unsheltered homelessness as they work to help all of these families that are coming in. And the summer is traditionally our busiest time to see families coming into shelter and needing that sort of support. So when we're talking about homelessness, we're looking at a very broad spectrum of people that need to maintain housing, that need outreach, that need shelter, and need housing options. Now, as far as unsheltered homelessness, it rose by about 1%, which represented about 14 people. So I think we're doing a fantastic job of engaging with people, but I will tell you that chronic homelessness, which is people with mental health, co-occurring conditions, long-term disabilities, as of right now, we have about 600 people on our wait list for long-term supportive housing that are going to need some sort of supportive services indefinitely. We only have about 100 openings per year. So all of the progress we've made with the housing bond, with the city and county and partners to develop permanent supportive housing is huge, it's needed, and we have to keep up the pace. The final point I want to make is just these agencies up here, our homeless response system, they do a fantastic job, and they all work together to maximize what they're able to do. And it's been a very difficult time for nonprofits as far as receiving individual donations and bigger donations. That's a national trend. And so in addition to these other things that we need to continue to see progress, we have to keep supporting these agencies so that they can do the good work that they do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katie. Erica Borrego, Corazon Ministries is celebrating its 25th year anniversary this year. Congratulations to you and the team. The organization's role and responsibility in our community has grown significantly beyond just providing hot meals. You now operate a day hub, a resource hub. You are sending harm reduction teams out into the community. You're providing health services. So talk to us a little bit about how the role of Corazon has changed and what you are seeing as some of the successes as well as some of the continuing challenges.
Absolutely. For those of you that are not familiar with Corazon Ministries, we started in 1999, 25 years ago, and we started with one individual at Travis Park Church, a 16-year-old young lady at Travis Park Church, let me be specific, who felt like the people who were walking around in the park and around the church needed a place to feel safe, needed a hot meal. And so that began the unconditional love and justice in action that has transformed our community through the work that Corazon does way before I even got there. So 25 years later, we are 35 staff strong. We do operate, Corazon Ministries operates the only day center in the city, which is a place where people can come to get respite from the elements, take a shower. We partner with all these beautiful agencies, but we share our campus with CAM, and we share a shower and rotate staff to make sure that every day of the week someone can access a shower. We provide one hot meal every day. We do ID recovery, and we provide health services. So if somebody has a wound or something, we're able to treat that with our nurses and our team. Our harm reduction program is the only permissible needle exchange program in the state. I don't know how many people know that. It's pretty impressive and pretty cutting edge for a city, and I'm proud that our city is laying the groundwork for this type of work in Texas. But we took 604,000 needles off the street alone last year, and we saved nearly 1,800 lives with our Narcan distribution program. Every single one of those people.
Say that again, Erica.
604,000 dirty needles off the street, which means we're transmitting less HIV, less Hep C, less syphilis, right? And making the community safer. 1,800 lives saved, 1,800 second chances.
Those are
last year. Reversed overdoses, that's correct. Some of those our team. I actually feel silly being the one up here that you all are clapping at, because my team is Brittany, who Lori beautifully called out back in the back over there. We have fantastic workers, and I have Russell, I have Hannah, I have Morgan and Brittany just from my team here, but they work alongside workers from all of the other agencies here and the city's workers, and I agree with Lori. These are the folks that are the person that walks the person to AA, that gets them into a treatment center, that does all the things that friends and family would do for us, those of us that are blessed to have that. Our team does that for the least of our community, and I think that's incredibly powerful. So we do harm reduction, we have our day center, we have a sober living home. I will say the most important thing I think that I can convey to you all is that many of us employ people with lived experience. Half of our team at Corazon specifically are individuals with lived experience. And we stand to learn more from every one of those individuals than we can ever learn from a book. And if you're not inspired by Lori and Brittany and Morgan and the folks you saw, Nicole, is that right? Got that. The folks you saw in that video, then I just don't know how else we can inspire and show you that there's hope on the other side. So thank you all for having us. I'm grateful to be a part of this team. We owe an apology to the mayor, and sir, we owe you an apology. We didn't tell you we were all going to be wearing green. So sorry for that, but that's how in sync we are. We didn't tell each other, and we all showed up like this, but this system really works. And one person can make a change, and imagine if every single person in here felt enough, not just to feel, but to act, how much more we could do for the people in our community. Thank you.
Really incredible. Thank you. Yeah, Christian Assistance Ministries, Don White Fostick, you are often referred